Enter, rejoice, and so in. Enter, rejoice, and so in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and so in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and so in.
Good morning. I'm Sharon Whitehill, your worship associate today, and I am at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Charlotte County, as usual, on Sunday morning. This service is being broadcast live via YouTube, and it will be available for later viewing. For that and our technology support in general, I want to thank Corey and Tom. And for our music, we are grateful and I am pleased to be among the 7 members of our summer choir. And usually we thank Janet for being our interim leader. She isn't here this morning, and we miss her, but thank you to Janet for all that you've done so far. Some housekeeping issues before we begin. We use only first names to protect anyone's and everyone's privacy. Remember to silence your electronic devices, please. And I will remember to alert you to put them back on when the service is finished. If you're at home, please have a chalice or candle ready for our chalice lighting ritual. And at the end of the service, join us on the patio out this door to my right to socialize. If you have difficulties with mobility, feel free to leave for the patio through the door in which you entered this morning. Whether you're here because it's part of your Sunday ritual every Sunday, all right. If you're here because it's part of your Sunday routine, or because you're distressed by the news lately and are looking for hope, we welcome you. Not because this community will fix your pain through easy solutions or the right way forward, but rather because we have something here, both more fragile and more powerful. That is our need to join together and reconnect to whatever life-giving source moves within and among us. Let us pledge today to help one another be a little bit braver, a little bit wiser, and a little bit kinder before we leave at the end of the service. We are glad those of you here have chosen to spend your Sunday morning with us, and that remains true for those of you at home as well. If you are watching from home, have a candle, please, available if you wish to light when Betty lights our fellowship chalice. Today's words for that chalice lighting ritual are as follows. In this dual symbol of Unitarian Universalism, we see both the chalice and the flame. The chalice is a cup of generosity, of community, and of sustenance. The flame is the light of hope and courage and wisdom. Together, the chalice and the flame light our way and illuminate our hopes for the future, even in darkened times. And now, as Betty lights the chalice, if you will come up, please, Betty, please join me in reciting our affirmation. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our aspiration, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. The summer choir will now sing hymn number 121 in the gray hymnals. It's We'll Build a Land, So please join us in singing verses 1, 2, and 5.
4. Okay.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come, build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where like oaks of righteousness stand her people. Oh, come build a land, my people we seek. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
Oh, that's so stimulating, isn't it? The opening words today are from Langston Hughes, from a book he wrote called Good Morning Revolution, Uncollected Social Protest Writings. I am so tired of waiting. Aren't you? For the world to become good and beautiful and kind. Let us take a knife and cut the world in two and see what worms are eating at the rind. Our tradition here at UUFCC is to share our joys and sorrows and life milestones by entering them in the Book of Life. It's the red book at the back of the sanctuary. When you arrive on Sunday morning, you can enter your joy or your sorrow into that book. You may also email, if you're not here in person, you may email those joys or those sorrows for the rest of us to know of by the Saturday before the service, and the worship associate, in this case, moi, will enter them in the red book for you. Betty has the red book. Thank you, Betty. I received nothing on the website today, but perhaps we have something here. We have one. This is from Dennis. My daughter Katie's partner Jeff has 4th stage bone cancer. This past week, despite being immunized, he came down with COVID. He is feeling awful. Please keep Jeff and Katie in your thoughts and prayers. So sorry, Dennis. May we hold this milestone and others yet unspoken or unwritten in the love and tenderness of our fellowship as a source of strength and comfort and courage and hope in the days and weeks ahead. The speaker today is our own Laura Anderson, coming to us from faraway Idaho on Zoom, and her presentation is entitled, Why I Am a Patriot. Laura, take it away.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Laura Anderson, a member of the Worship Committee. And today I want to tell you why I'm a patriot and why I am so very proud to be an American. Since I'm online, I can't tell if you're laughing at me right now or if you just have really horrified looks on your faces. But I hope in 15 minutes' time, you'll at least think I'm not completely daft, and maybe you'll feel a little more patriotic too. One of my favorite songs is called I Am a Patriot. It was written by Steve Van Zandt in 1984 during the Reagan era. You might have heard it sung by him or a popular version that Jackson Browne did. It was also a staple in Eddie Vedder's tours with Pearl Jam. If it's not familiar to you, I would recommend that you look it up later. It really is a great song. I'm not such a good singer, so I'm just going to read the words. It starts out like this. And the river opens for the righteous, and the river opens for the righteous someday. I was walking with my brother, and he wondered what's on my mind. I said, what I believe in my soul ain't what I see with my eyes, and we can't turn our backs this time. I am a patriot, and I love my country, because my country is all I know. And I ain't no communist, and I ain't no capitalist, no socialist, imperialist, or Democrat. I sure ain't no Republican. I only know one party, and that is freedom. This month's theme at UUFCC is freedom and democracy. And we've had speakers from places that supply us with food and for those who have a uterus who are under attack. Both are messages about people in our country who are diminished because of who they are. Our headlines are full of stories of violence and hate. Politicians and journalists feed off this hate. In fact, I would go so far to say they are responsible for much of it. And while I have respect for civil servants, I have little patience for self-serving politicians. It is my opinion that politicians spend much more time thinking about and planning their own re-election than making much effort to solve our problems and do the work they were elected to do. And journalists? Since when are journalists objectively providing news? We cannot. Our country cannot rely on politicians to save us or journalists to tell us the truth. So what do we have? We have Unitarian Universalism. We Unitarian Universalists have a history of working to build a world that is more peaceful. We consider the needs of others. We value the ideals that our country has embraced when it is at its best. We have the fifth principle, which calls us to promote and affirm the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregation and in society at large. Over the past year, we've had multiple people who are part of this fellowship speak about why they are Unitarian Universalists. I was one of them, and I said that I know I belong here because you allow me to be part of this fellowship. You support me and you help me when I need support. You correct me when I start going off the rails. I am a UU because I know I am loved and respected. But that isn't to say there's anything special or unique about me. It's about you. You care enough to keep working toward our goal of beloved community. You forgive me when I make a mistake. We forgive ourselves. And doesn't our larger community, our country, need that too? Erica Hewitt says of our Universalist legacy, we believe every person in the human family is loved. We are all saved. We're okay just the way we are, and we aren't done. Our lives, our becoming, is unfinished work. I think Steve Van Zandt was a Universalist. Hewitt says the Universalist version of God who holds all people in love isn't done with us yet. We are called to grow and learn, to serve and to liberate others as long as we live. She continues, our Unitarian heritage provides us with covenant. Our congregational life is grounded in relationship arising from covenant, the promises we make about how we will be with one another. It isn't enough to want to live a life of greater integrity. We need to help to be the people that we strive to be. A few weeks ago at the General Assembly in Portland, one speaker talked about the balance between individuals' freedom of conscience and the covenants which guide us in the practice of Unitarian Universalism. This tension between individualism and promise has taken our country to a dangerous place. We have people who feel marginalized, who are frustrated, and they aren't interested in other people's problems. They aren't interested in politicians' promises. The promise of our America has failed them. It has failed us. And the same speaker said, and I agree, that we are a dynamic faith. We are a powerful and relevant force for moral and spiritual growth and for healing and justice in this world. Ours is the faith of Susan B. Anthony, who was a women's rights activist and social reformer in the 1800s, and of Clara Barton, a nurse in the Civil War, who founded the American Red Cross. Many Unitarian Universalists answered the call from Reverend Martin Luther King during the Civil Rights Movement, and Reverend James Reeb was murdered by white supremacists in Selma, Alabama in 1965, because he answered that call. We have the history of Martha and Waite Still Sharp, who are credited for helping thousands of Jews and children escape from harm in Europe in 1939 and 1940. We are a powerful and relevant force for moral and spiritual growth and for healing and justice in this world. You already know this, and you know these people's stories and others who work to make our world a more loving place for all people. Our UUA president, Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, recently released a statement on religious rights. As my Unitarian Universalist religion calls me to do, I commit to work even harder to make sure all women, pregnant people, and trans individuals, kids and adults, know that they are unequivocally and unapologetically valued. And I challenge U.S. lawmakers and leaders in every part of public life to make that same commitment. I reject dehumanizing oppressive politics, and I call on the moral conscience of all Americans to reject them too. I was impressed that one of the ministers at the General Assembly was in military uniform, a chaplain. Reverend Dr. Cynthia L.G. Kane used these words to light the chalice for the Service of Living Tradition at GA this year. Fire requires oxygen, fuel, and a spark. so too does our living tradition require breath, community, and that which ignites our spirits to bring healing and wholeness to our bruised yet beautiful world. Without one, fire is extinguished. Together, a flame roars when something meaningful is behind it. Ideals such as a just society, equality under the law, and freedom to worship the holy of one's understanding, ideas that inspired the Renaissance, Enlightenment, the United States, the Civil War, and the Civil Rights Movement. These ideas are the torch we keep lit and pass from one generation to the next. This is the America that I believe in. The ideals that Reverend Kane mentions in our chalice lighting, the ideals that are what makes America worth fighting for. I'm not being a Pollyanna and ignoring the many challenges we face, but this dream of America I believe in is worth this struggle. I know that this America is the one my grandfather fought for in World War I and my father in World War II, and that this is the country that Steve Van Zandt wrote about. My life is anchored in covenant in the UU and patriotism in the US. I'm proud of the America, as the sign says, where all people are equal and love wins and Black Lives Matter and immigrants and refugees are welcome and disabilities are respected and women are in charge of their bodies and where people and planet are valued over profit and where diversity is celebrated. Van Zandt said, I want to make it clear that I'm being critical from a patriotic point of view. I'm very proud of the ideals that our founding fathers had in mind when they created the country. But the fact is, the U.S. is still very much a work in progress and very often goes off the rails. In those instances, it's up to the true patriots to say, wait a minute, the government isn't always right. We need to be vigilant about keeping our ideals intact. We know how to do this work. We practice it in the fellowship all the time, and maybe we aren't always perfect at it, but we know that it is important how we are together and that every person deserves dignity and respect. We practice this work when we support the gay youth in our community and when we support the food banks in our areas with 2 years of solid, constant donations adding up to $40,000 or $50,000. We practice this work when we march with and host the Coalition of Immokalee Workers. We don't all agree all of the time. We don't all hold the same beliefs, but we know how to support and respect each other. The worship committee is made up of members and friends who have a variety of religious traditions, and we try to balance the topics for Sunday morning. Each month we review the services, what worked and what didn't, and we allow space for sermons about many ideas that are important to some of us. We know how to live with people with a variety of religious beliefs. I am a humanist, and when we have a service about a Jewish tradition, I don't feel marginalized or get my feelings hurt. Instead, I welcome the opportunity to celebrate something that is meaningful to others. We at UUFCC know how to make room for all beliefs, to overlap and support each other in expression that is meaningful for all. We know how to respond to intolerance and hate. Some of us are Buddhists and practice cultivating the qualities of loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. We each have our own spiritual traditions and ideals. We agree to join in fellowship here, but we don't say that one tradition or ideal is better than another. Can we agree that we have a place worth working to make better without saying our country is better than any other? My humanism isn't better or worse than your atheism or Christianity. My United States isn't more exceptional or worse than any other place. It's just different. But I proclaim it to be mine, and it is worth fighting for. It is the place I know. I am not a nationalist, but I am a patriot, and I love my country. We have a deep divide in America, an emotional one that implies an us versus them mentality. But we UUs have values and covenants that state we will help and support one another. Can't these values and covenants call us to invite a dialogue with others and to make room for healthy conflict? We know how to ask questions. We care enough to listen to the answers. We promise to do this with our covenant. We do so with compassion and respect. And doesn't our larger community, our country, need that too? Last Sunday, we watched a clip from Portland on the evening of the Supreme Court decision in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health at a rally in support of abortion rights. President Frederick Gray said, "I am furious. I am full of holy fury in the way that our lives and our rights are being taken away. We are in this struggle in solidarity, and there are more of us than there are of them. When we come together, we will win." I believe her. I have to believe her because I believe in America and I believe in Unitarian Universalism. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. That was wonderful and totally timely and appropriate, and hear to everything you said. In keeping with this theme, we will sing together hymn number 116, "I'm on my way to the freedom land."
Get it.
1, 2, and 4, sorry.
No, this is one, this is,
Yeah.
no, 1 and 5 and 1.
151. 151.
We're not sure, we're just singing.
Please join us. Who's on first?
Sing whatever you want.
Easy to see.
You're free.
Ready? I'm on my way.
I'm on my way
To the freedom land.
to the freedom land.
I'm on my way.
I'm on my way
To the freedom land.
to the freedom land.
I'm on my way.
I'm on my way
To the freedom land.
to the freedom land.
I'm on my way.
I'm on my way.
God, I'm on my way.
I'm on my way.
I'm on my way.
I'm on my way.
And I won't turn back.
And I won't turn back.
I'm on my way.
I'm on my way.
And I won't turn back.
And I won't turn back.
I'm on my way.
I'm on my way.
And I won't turn back.
And I won't turn back.
I'm on my way.
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 I'm on my way
To the freedom land.
to the freedom land.
I'm on my way.
I'm on my way
To the freedom land.
to the freedom land.
I'm on my way.
I'm on my way
To the freedom land.
to the freedom land.
I'm on my way. I'm on my way.
I'm on my way.
We got it.
We know this beloved congregation exists because of your generous support, your awareness of the privilege and responsibility we all share in making sure that it endures. Your pledge or donation may also be honored online. Either way, be sure to label any donation other than your pledge as such on the check's memo. For anyone with us for the first time, I Not sure there is any such person, but if you were here, this once allow us to make you our guest, and you needn't feel obligated to put anything in the basket. The authors, please come forward. There it is. My water. Thank you. The time is upon us to highlight UUFCC's events and activities, also listed in Mary Jane's weekly updates. Those updates give us the very best way to stay connected and to keep up with the ongoing activities here. There's a full calendar for the week, all the links you need for connecting through Zoom, highlights you might want to read aloud or to have read aloud at the service. Everything's there. And the frosting on top of the Mary Jane's confessional musings are just those, her confessions from time to time. So mail your announcements, please, to Life of the Community, UUFCC.org. First, coincidentally but fittingly, as concerns Laura's message, the board recently approved the purchase of a flagpole, not only to proclaim our space as Americans and patriots of the sort Laura describes, but beneath it, a rotation of flags that proclaim our UU values. So, an American flag that is lit up at night, and if you have such a flag with values we all stand for or would like to purchase one, please connect with the Communications Committee. That would be Herb, Lori, Mary Jane, Tom, or either one of our Lauras, Laura A. or Laura L. Secondly, by popular demand, the Conversation Among Friends is back with two different options for you. One by Zoom, another in person. Either or, not both and, not both at once. They will meet at the same time. It would be very difficult to be in both places. Starting on August 15th at 9 in the morning. That in-person option, if you choose it, know that it's going to be limited to probably 15, at the most 20 people. There's an ACLU event on August 2nd. There's a social lunch at Luigi's at 1:30 on August 8th. Check your weekly updates because these things are all noted and detailed there. And finally, we're looking for an instructor to teach the UUA curriculum, Facing Death with Life. So, read your weekly notes like Uncle Sam. Your weekly notes need you. My closing words are from two sources. First, my long-term favorite, Mark Twain, from a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's court. My kind of loyalty was loyalty to one's country, not to its institutions or its office holders. The country is the real thing, the substantial thing, the eternal thing. It is the thing to watch over and care for and be loyal to. Institutions are extraneous. There, it's mere clothing. And clothing can wear out, become ragged, cease to be comfortable, cease to protect the body from winter, disease, and death. And finally, these brief words from one of our founding fathers, Samuel Adams. If ever a time should come when vain and aspiring men shall possess the highest seats in government, our country will stand in need of its experienced patriots to prevent its ruin. Please join me now in our ritual recitation as Betty extinguishes the chalice. Following Go Now in Peace, you're invited to stay for our social time outdoors on the patio. This is also my cue to remind you to revive your electronic devices. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of hope, the fire of commitment, or the warmth of community. May those ideals shine in our lives and warm our hearts till we are together again. Go now in peace.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the Spirit of us surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the Spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere. Lifted up, long bless your way. Moonlight, starlight, guide your journey into peace and the brightness of day. Now we're done.
Now we're done.